You know, after watching the recent gaming historian video, which he talked about the history of the ERSB system or ES. Hold on. Well, he talked about basically the history of the formation of the ESRB system, the Entertainment Rating System, Rating Board, the Entertainment System Rating Board. First of all, I do inform you guys to watch it. It's very informative. There's no doubt about it. It gives you a better, I guess, from the gaming historian's point of view, it gives you a better idea of exactly why this system was formed, why it was created. And after watching it, I don't think any of us can argue that there was good reasoning for the ESRB system to be created, a rating system to be created. I don't think we can argue that there wasn't a good there was not a good reason. There was good reason. But when I watched it, and again, like I said, I do recommend watching it because it's very informative. But as I watched it, I was thinking to myself, back then when this all happened, which was 22 years ago, a little over 22 years ago, 22, 21 years ago, as great as the reasoning behind the rating system was, today it really doesn't mean anything now. Hear me out. Nowadays, what was argued against at that time in the Senate has fallen on deaf's ears. It has. It really has fallen on deaf's ears. Let me explain. You could tell a child or a adolescent teen, you could tell them, hey, you can't play this game because it's got an M rating. But yet that child or adolescent teen will say, well, I get to play it at home. And that's true. They probably do. But here's the thing. That's on the parents, or that's on the relatives, allowing them to play that game. It is. It's on the parents, it's on the relatives. It's not on anybody else. But even with that said, just another further example. It's just another further example of the fact that the rating system is broken again. It's basically fallen on deaf's ears. It's ironic that this formation of the ERSB video came out almost within a week's time of Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critic editorial on if the PG rating meant anything anymore. Because obviously the rating system in all areas is screwed up again. I mean, the thing is, the rating system still is very distinguished to what it is. The K to A system, as the gaming historian put it, the K to A system evolved into being E or E plus 10. Basically E meaning for everyone, and E plus 10 meaning basically meaning for everyone plus 10 and over. There's even the C system that I still think's in effect in a sense, but the C system, the C rating is basically for early childhood, mostly like preschool. That's still in effect in a way, but everything else is either E or E10, and then above it you have T, and then above that you have M. That's about it. But the problem with this, when one thinks about it, folks, the problem with the rating system is, again, just like when they were arguing about it 20-something years ago, it's once again fallen on deaf's ears. It has fallen on deaf's ears to the point that now a child could go into a Walmart or a Target or a Best Buy with a parent, and the parent can ask an associate or an employee, hey, I want to buy this game. And yet an associate or an employee, and even I can say this from experience because I may have made the mistake once or twice, will without reluctancy give them that game. They'll allow them to purchase it. They'll say, oh, this game is up here at this register, or you can buy it over here, in electronics or in the gaming area. So myself and many other associates, employees of many retail giants have made that mistake, and will continue to make that mistake because of the society we live in today. You see, we live in a society where even at my job, we used to, but now we can't. We used to be able to search or ask teenagers or people to leave their backpacks outside, but yet we can't do that. Sometimes we ask them if we can check their backpacks in the past. Now we can't do that. Why? Well, one, they say it's invasion of privacy, and they are right about that. They do have a point on that, but the problem is because of one argument at my store back when I started. This is like a few months after I started. We can no longer at my store check backpacks. We can't. I mean, last night we had not one but two animal service people, or at least one animal service person. I don't know, but the other one may have been the girl that came in afterwards may have been a police officer or something, but I don't know. But the point is, for months, among months, we have had owners bringing their animals into the store. Now, we do have a regulation, just like any other retail giant out there. If the animal is for disability, like blindness, or helping around, guiding, walking, whatever, then we're fine. If it's a service animal and you have a reasoning for it, that's fine. But if you're just going to bring them in, put them in your cart, depending on how small the animal is, like a dog or a cat, mostly dog, if you're going to bring them in, you need to have a reasoning. If not, you need to leave them at home, or you need to roll the window down on your car, leave them in there until you get out, or have one of you, if it's a couple of people, have one or two people stay in the car, windows rolled down with said animal, so that, at least they won't be alone, and you can go to the store and still get what you need. But you see, again, we are in a society now where stores can't even judge anybody. We can't even say anything. And and you see how this relates to the rating system and how it's broken is that you could put as many ratings from the ESRB on your games, kids are still going to buy them. They'll find a way around it. It's like when somebody buys it's like, okay, we have a training video that when you start, one of our training videos or training sessions that we have to redo every year is about tobacco and liquor and basically cigarettes and all that. Every year we have to retrain ourselves. We have to rewatch the video. And every year it states the same thing. And that is to watch out for certain people, watch out for certain things. There are times in that video where they will say, watch out, or watch it, and keep your eye out for certain things, like somebody giving money or something else, or this or that, so that they can get cigarettes that they're not appropriately aged for. The problem is, nowadays, despite the recent increase of the age limit on tobacco and liquor, it's still not going to stop them. A lot of people have become wise to the fact that, okay, these associates, these cashiers, these employees have been trained to keep an eye out, have been trained to keep a watchful eye. We need to be a step ahead. And they are. Most of the time they are, because I could check somebody out with liquor. Somebody can come to my register, show me their ID, I could check them out, and they could literally take that liquor, and they could be old enough to buy it. Like I said, they could show me the ID and everything, and they could literally take it and they could hand it off to somebody that bought it for them, or they bought it for. Now, sometimes we've been on the occasion of sometimes we've been on the occasion of being able to catch somebody. Now, I'm not innocent sometimes in being duped. One time, several months ago, a couple of young people under the age wanted some liquor, but they knew they couldn't buy it. So they convinced the guy they probably knew that was old enough to do it for them. Give them the money, they was going to do it for them. Now, I got duped in letting this guy take a case of beer because I'm thinking, okay, because I didn't know. I didn't know this guy had already been caught, had already been talked to. So he ends up taking the case of beer, and again, he gets caught once again. All because these two young kids don't understand. You're not old enough. You're not old enough to do this. And the point is, though, they probably found a way to get it anyway. All because of the fact and how it relates to the rating system is the society we are in. Nowadays, you can't even say no to something without starting an argument. Let's say a kid wants a parent to buy them Blood Rain or buy Destiny, and it's got an M rating on it. Yeah, when you scan it, it's going to bring up, is this person 17 and up? And the person with the money purchasing it, yeah, you obviously could see is older than 17, but you don't know whether or not they are purchasing it for themselves or for the kid, and majority of the time, it's for their kid. That's obviously what it is. But we don't know that. We don't know that because kids are smart. Parents are smart. Today's society, parents look at it like, well, they see this every day. No big deal. And again, you see, this is what's showing you, this is why, even though 20-something years ago we had the formation of this ESRB system, everything I've talked about here is just an example, is an example of how things like this are causing the fall of it. They are. Now, I'm not saying it's a total failure. I'm not saying it's totally broken, because I'm sure there are retailers out there that will make sure you show ID about if you're purchasing it. If you're purchasing an M-rated game. So that way they can be like, okay, yeah, you're old enough, or no, you're not old enough, I can't sell you this game. But in the case of a majority of big-time retailers, when it comes to making money, we can't do that. Because it's like, you want to start an argument, you want to start an outcry, it just shows you that the rating system all around, whether it's the MPAA, the ESRB, or even the one for television, is broken. And it has to be fixed. Now, as far as television goes, I'll give them credit. They have parental locks for people to put in a code so that a certain channel can be watched. I'll give them that. But still, that also is at fault. That's at fault due to the fact that how do you know a young kid won't find out the code and then put it in? Oh yeah, you could change the code if you're a parent saying, how did you get access to watching that program at that channel? You're not supposed to. You can change the code all you want. A kid's gonna find out somehow. They'll either overhear you talking about it, they'll either see you putting it in, they'll either see you write it down somewhere and try to hide it. They'll find ways to figure it out. And again, it shows you how faulty the rating system has become. The fall it is taking. And now, when I watched what the gaming historian said, I can't help but wonder, as great as that was then, as a great idea as it was then, I mean, heck, I was, 14, 15 years old when this was being made. I'm 37 freaking years old now. And I view this as an uncle. My mom would view it as a grandmother. Now, it's like I said earlier, if a parent or an aunt or an uncle decides, hey, you could play the game, it's no big deal, that's on them. But if you have a system, or if you have a system where a majority of its library at times, well, not majority, but a decent percentage of its library is M-rated material, M-rated games, and it's in your household, then you have the right to tell them no. There are a lot of grandparents, there are a lot of aunts and uncles, sisters, brothers, who will probably have a nephew or a younger brother come over and stay with them, and they'll notice, ooh, you got this, I want to play it. But you have the right to either say, okay, fine, go ahead. That's on you if you allow them to. But if you say no, then that's also on you, because you're saying, look at the rating. You're not old enough for this. But yet, in today's society, it's not that way anymore. And I know what Gaming Historian was talking about with the formation and how it's kind of changed in a way, and how certain regions and countries distinguish their own rating systems and what's on that game by not just ratings, but by maybe picturesque icons and stuff like that. I get it. I totally respect that. I totally respect what you're getting at, Gaming Historian. But the problem is, today's rating system all around the board is faulty and it's broken. I mean, even Doug Walker in that Nostalgia Critic editorial, and I pointed it out, he basically pointed out, like I did, a movie like Drag Me to Hell, which is R-rated all the way around through, is PG-13, and yet a movie like Inside Out, which is mostly a G-rated material film, is PG. Now, I made the argument for the fact that the only reason Inside Out got PG wasn't because it's the hip, cool thing to do. No, it's because it's a psychological story that it was talking about. It was going through a lot of this emotional, psychological feel. Like, you had a representation of how someone feels when they have joy in their heart, or they have anger or fear. They were all represented. And they were done in a sense that, yeah, the movie in itself, through its colorfulness and everything, could be looked at as a G-rated film, but yet it was dealing with an issue and a subject that not a lot of young kids, even though you have a lot of young kids that are fans of joy and sadness and all that, will understand. They will not understand it. So, to me, it's more along the lines that there are exceptions, but not all the time. There are not many exceptions to the fact. I mean, heck, there are some movies that are going to be released that are getting a PG-13 rating, and they're clearly R-rated films. And they're coming out within the next few weeks, next few months. It's all because the rating system all around the board is broken. It is. And the ESRB system is no exception. It is broken to a fault. Because nowadays, you can't tell me that when a young adult male or female, young adult male or female comes in, purchases something like, let's say, Blood Rain or Call of Duty or whatever, and says, oh, by the way, basically makes it look like, oh, I'm just buying it for myself, when in fact they could end up buying it for a younger generation, a generation that's not supposed to be playing it. Heck, I'll give you an example. I have in my possession Mortal Kombat X, Destiny, Tomb Raider, the Definitive Edition, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, and even Mortal Kombat, the Complete Collection, the Mortal Kombat 9. I have several M-rated games, but a majority of my game library, though, is either E or T. And you know why? Because I have young nephews that like to play games. And my mom, even though she'd be totally against certain games, she understands, hey, that's his money. He can buy it if he wants to. Now, one thing I did when I got Mortal Kombat X is I prayed over it. Yeah, I did a prayer, I prayed over it, and I gave it to God, and everything's been fine. I mean, even when I told my mom that, she was understanding about it, because at least as long as I pray over something like that, it's going to be okay. The point is though, I'm not innocent in having M-rated games, but at least I try what I can to make sure my nephews don't play that game. Don't play those M-rated games. I mean, I know, for example, I have a nephew that wants to play my PS4, but I know deep down all he wants to do is play it for the M-rated games. That's all he wants to do. Now, am I innocent in not letting him play M-rated games? No, I'm not. I have another Xbox system in the rec room, one that basically is just it's just the downloaded games. That's all it is. The reason being is because the disk drive broke, but the rest of the system still works. So I have Call of Duty on there. I believe I do. I think it's Modern Warfare, the first one, and I let him play that. So I'm not innocent in not letting, my near 13-year-old nephew play that, an M-rated game. But that's just one. That's just one. The point I'm trying to make, though, is not everybody's innocent, not even me. But what I did is an example of what a lot of parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, it's an example of what they will do. They know that if they don't do so, they know that nowadays they're going to have adolescent teens that like video games, that want to play specific video games, but we won't allow it. But they know cannot be allowed. Here's the problem. Okay? Parents don't want to deal with BS. They don't want to deal with crap. They don't want to deal with kids whining and crying, so they let them have their way. And that's another example of the ESRB system being broken because they let them have their way. They do. I mean, the point is, no matter how we look at it, when this whole thing was formed 20-something years ago, it was a great concept, greatly appreciated by parents, educational groups, you name it, everybody across the board. But nowadays, this rating system of the ESRB is broken to a fault. It is broken beyond any kind of repair. And if there is a repair that needs to be done, as I said in my response video to Doug Walker's "Does PG rating mean anything anymore?" I'll say it again. The only way this is going to be fixed is if the people behind the ESRB system starts fixing it and starts regulating things. That if they get in contact with retail stores, that if they find a way for the online stores to be like, okay, are you old enough? There has to be something done. In other words, if a parent's going to buy the game, or older person's going to buy the game, an M-rated game, if you will, there's got to be a way of saying, hey, are you buying this for yourself, or are you buying it for a kid that's not supposed to be playing it? I mean, if you have to put them on a freaking lie detector test or something and have the thing go beep, nope, you're lying, sorry, I can't sell you that game because you're going to be giving it to a kid, then so be it. Let that be the reasoning. The point is, gaming historian could talk about the formation of it, but you can also look at it now, 20 years later, as the fall, as the decline. Because obviously it doesn't really mean anything anymore. You can have a lot of these first-person shooters come under fire all you want. But the truth is, those issues get swept under the rug quickly. Why? Because of the decline. Because of the society that we are in right now. And the truth is, this has to be fixed. The MPAA has to fix their rating system. The ESRB has to fix their rating system. And heck, television has to fix its rating system. And we got to figure out ways to distinguish. They got to figure out ways to distinguish, whether a game's being purchased for an adult that's purchasing it, or are they doing it for a kid? Because I guarantee you this, folks. I say this with the honest to God truth. If something is not done, then what happened 20 years ago is going to be revisited once again, and it's going to be even worse. It's going to be revisited. It's going to be even worse, than what we had before, and it might even cause the fall of the video game industry as a whole. It will. It will cause the fall of the video game industry as a whole. So, in closing, like I said at the beginning, I do recommend checking out the Gaming Historian's Formation of the ESRB System video. It's very informative. But in reply to what Gaming Historian has said, all I could say is, you may have had a formation 20 years ago, but 20 years later, 20 years later, we are at a decline. And that is not a good sign. And like I said, unless something is not done, we're going to end up in a similar situation as 20 years ago, and that might be the final nail in the coffin, the fatal blow to the video game industry if something isn't done. So that's my response, my audio-video response to Gaming Historian's video. Again, check it out, and I'll talk to y'all later.